about the person trying to assassinate Trump. I just wanted to see what you and Jeffrey, and I mean anybody else with policing experience or military, did that guy get in? It's obviously concerning that he was in the building with weapons. It's concerning that he was like at the hotel with weapons because we had touched on it yesterday, like it could have been a bomb. And then what? Did he get as far as it looked, or was it just like in the entry right away through the front door and then they snagged him? Because the video was weird. Also, did they just undress him immediately? Why was he naked? But is it as concerning as I'm concerned? But is it as bad as the media maybe is showing it? Or was he like 40 feet from where Trump was standing? Or was he just through the front door and it wasn't that big of a deal? Like, kind of what was happening there?
Jeffrey, I think this is a question for you mostly.
So you have a guy, the background is you have a guy who's not entirely dim, actually quite intelligent. 31, California, has degrees in engineering, very much put out a lot of his, what is it, his manifesto on what he was looking to do and target President Trump and all of his cabinet members. So this is, I'm going somewhere with this. This means you have a person, this isn't just like some crazy lunatic who's so crazy. He's crazy in his goal setting. He's not crazy in the sense that it undermines his ability to come up with plans to realize that goal. And in part and parcel of that, he actually purchased his room weeks in advance. He stayed in the hotel where the event was being held because he knew that's where it was being held, right? And he exploited the hotel's open structure. This is what the issue you have when you have public venues. Like, security is extremely hard, even when you have multiple rings of security. That being stated, there's definitely an issue with regards to concerns regards to what potentially could be weaponized incompetence, which is you have a person who's part of, let's say, the Secret Service that doesn't like President Trump for whatever reason. And they make it a point to just be really shitty at their job and leave a hole open for anybody who may want to do that. They don't know if they're going to do that. They don't know of a specific person. They're just making sure that the hole is there, kind of thing. That's definitely a concern. That's actually what they're investigating, to be sure, right now. That's one of the things. So here's some of the things that they were discussing, at least to the best of my, like, in 4 areas, right? So the venue was inherently porous because you can book rooms. You can move internally if you book rooms without any screening, and Secret Service couldn't realistically lock down 1,000 rooms. That's just fucking impossible. Screening was event based, although it wasn't building wide. That's why they're like, why didn't you do the screening building wide prior to the president coming? It seems like that's a no brainer, hence the term weaponized incompetence. There was issues regarding ID verification issues, so the entry relied heavily on tickets and screenshots. There was little ID verification in some areas, and they didn't lock down the internal access routes, particularly stairwells, which gave direct access to guest floors and to the event level. So what you're seeing is essentially, without, because they're still doing all the assessment. Where it shakes out right now, I can say with a very high degree of confidence, you're seeing classic vulnerability with high profile events and open venues. The attacker didn't break in. He checked into the hotel like a normal guest and moved through internal stairwells because he knew where Trump was going to be. And he had a stated goal of killing President Trump and or his cabinet members. And he got close because only the event space, not the entire building, was secured, which is why people are looking at or investigating weaponized incompetence. And by the time he hit the checkpoint, he'd already had weapons inside the structure, so he actually assembled them on site. There's a reason that both good guys and bad guys said this. So President Lincoln, during the Civil War, had remarked once, if somebody wanted to kill him and didn't care if he lived or died, there's really nothing you can do to stop that person. Very little. Same with JFK. Indeed, Adolf Hitler said that. The way Adolf Hitler tried to circumvent that is he had a completely random schedule. He would change his shit. So you couldn't plan. You didn't know where to be. Problem is that Donald is not Hitler, and we are not Nazi Germany. And he subsequently has to act in a manner that is reactive to or beholden to the general public, which is what this event was, in many ways to try and de-escalate a lot of the tension that's in the United States. And subsequently, bad guys can then plan their course of action to hit you because they know where you're going to be. That's why he said what he said. That's why President Trump said that. If you're doing something, the only time in a very perverse way, it's flattering, because assassins don't go after people that don't do shit.
I find that concerning for multiple reasons, but especially for a president who there have been multiple attempts on his life. For something like this, you're talking about oversight, intentional or not. Monday morning quarterbacks know it all, right? But that seems extremely stupid to be holding an event like that. And like you said, not checking everyone that's actually coming in just in this section, or let alone the fact that everybody was there. That's the wake up call here, not that somebody got through with a gun. We had everybody in a room, and had someone brought in more than a gun, that would have been, we've never seen something like that in this country. We've seen it in other countries that are not too smart and like to put everyone in a room. We take advantage of that. It's beyond me. But Shauna, I see that you wanted to respond. Go ahead.
Hi, can everybody hear me? Yeah, okay. I just wanted to ask, does anybody know why Kash Patel in the dude's manifesto, why Kash Patel was somehow like not on his list? Because what the guy said in his manifesto is that he was targeting Trump, especially, of course, but anybody that, as many of the administration that he could get his hands on, except for Kash Patel. And then he's like, I won't kill any of the civilians if they don't get my way, blah, blah, blah. But like everybody in the administration was like open season except for Kash Patel. Does anybody know why?
So it's interesting because he specifically said that everybody except Kash Patel, which is a contradiction to his concern, because like he's talking about Epstein and stuff like that, right? And all of the people within the Epstein conspiracy stuff, they consider Kash Patel to be like one of the people responsible for covering up for pedophiles and stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, people in the chat are saying because he's brown. Is that the reason? That's I don't.
Well, that
That's
was
crazy.
my thinking, was literally it might just be a race thing. Because he's a lefty. That's the only thing that makes any logical sense. It still doesn't make logical sense, but it's the closest thing that I can think of.
What? Oh my god, that would be so retarded.
But he also, I guess the only other thing is maybe he feels like Kash Patel is the only person who knows anything about Epstein. And so maybe he thinks that Kash Patel is the only one who could actually do something. But I honestly think it might just be the race thing. I just wanted to know if anybody else had any other theories or ideas. So that's all.
Oh my god, it's interesting because even among the most progressive woke leftist people, they make exceptions sometimes for people who are brown or black as race traders, as people who are betraying their own people, right? If they are, even if you're brown or black, if you're allied with the enemy, they will be like, okay, yeah, we support brown or black or whatever people, Arab, whatever people, but not you because you're betraying your own people. So it's interesting that this guy, if that's the reason, he's even more woke than woke people. But I don't know if that's the reason. So far, nobody knows.
Well, the other thing too, though, that I found really interesting about some of his coding is there are some coding that kind of it's a little horseshoey in like some of his coding. Also, there's some evidence that he was extremely Christian, which may impact certain things. And he talks very specifically about like calling Trump a
He was what?
racist.
Sorry, he was
There-
extremely what?
There's some that says that he was extremely Christian or raised Christian. There's been
But
some pointings.
but I heard that he was hated
Then,
Christians. I heard that, yeah.
okay, then that needs to be more researched. But yeah, he was, yeah, I guess we don't know necessarily, but he wasn't always clearly. There's some right wing coding on the manifesto as well, some like far right stuff. So some of it is maybe a little bit horseshoey for him. And he's also, I don't know how anti-capitalist he was either. I don't remember. So he wasn't big.
Wouldn't be surprised. Yeah, and if anybody else has any guess regarding why Kash Patel was excluded, I think by the way, we're gonna figure out like soon because they have him, so they're probably gonna figure it out. So we can just wait and see. Okay.